as we, are going live and getting people to come on. Is it snowing in South Carolina, Corrie?
No.
Okay. I was trying to get the snow angle, but Njamile was right. It's just nothing but a white glare, so we can't show the snow. But since it's the two of y'all, and y'all do this so good, and I have not played this game in a long time, I got my game. Black Love. No, Dr. Claiborne. Hi, Estee. Welcome.
Hey, y'all.
Hey. I love that color wall. I meant to tell you that.
I know.
It's giving me whole life.
Right.
I mean, it's like a
hair
whole
in
moment.
the wall.
We talked about art. I want you to take a screenshot and have that painted. That's all I got to say.
Right?
I want that to be hanging somewhere.
I love it too. I love it too. It's very me. And when I showed Shay the sample, she was like,
it's great though. I am here for it.
Yeah. I can't take credit. My colleague who's an interior designer was like, I have a color for you. It's your color. And I was like,
it is. It is whole life. I love it.
Yeah.
Hey y'all.
You got the Spellman shirt on too. Yeah.
I know. This is a picture, ain't it, Corrie?
It is a picture.
It is.
A portrait.
It really
Not
is.
a picture, a portrait.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Well, you commission a portrait. That's
Yes.
Oh, well, there you go.
Absolutely.
Okay, so while Thandi is hopping on, let's go back to my game, Black Love. Okay, so let's just remind y'all of the instructions, because I don't think we have played it in like an entire year, but I have a good category for you today. So I'll remind you of the instructions. I'm gonna give you a category, and I'm gonna be generous. I'm gonna put on my timer. I'm gonna give you 20 seconds. So I think that's the most time I've ever given y'all. I'm going to give you 20 seconds for you to give me 10 things in this category. Okay? So it's 10 things in the category, and y'all can play together because we're going to just cooperatively, Black women cooperating and making it happen. Okay? So your category is Black women millionaires. Give me 10 Black women millionaires. No ums, no filler words. 10 Black women millionaires. Go.
Beyonce, Madam C.J. Walker.
Why only one person talking?
Oh, I thought we were going one at a time. That's why I was going to have them all. Okay. Oprah Winfrey.
Oprah, yeah.
Mary Ellen Pleasant.
Okay, you said but go ahead.
I did. I caught myself.
Okay, we had 26 minutes.
Rihanna.
Rihanna.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 5 with some in there. Okay, so give me.
I think we could just literally list actresses, because Viola Davis, Halle Berry, Melanie Hobson.
Melanie Hobson, that's a good one.
No actresses. No
actresses. You didn't say that at the beginning.
Hobson.
Melanie Hobson is a good one.
Yeah,
but okay, I'm gonna give Melanie Hobson.
Melanie Hobson. I mean, I know you said no actresses, but what about Shonda Rhimes? Because I mean, that's a whole
technically,
the whole thing. Shonda Rhimes,
she's not an actress. Yeah.
No,
not an actress.
She wouldn't count.
I'm just saying, but like Shonda.
I mean, I already gave y'all got an Oprah, Beyonce, Rihanna. I mean, that's already filler stuff. But anyway, go ahead.
It's not filler. Literally. We're talking about they're billionaires, right? Let's be clear. They're billionaires, not even millionaires. They have stepped up one.
Right. Some more. We're not at 10. Give me some more. I
feel like there are a lot of people I don't even know in their life. But even people.
10. Come on.
Yeah, I feel like I don't want to.
Who's the lady who is the interim president?
Fawn Weaver.
Oh, Fawn Weaver. And homegirl at Spelman.
Right, the interim president.
Yeah.
The interim president at Spelman. Rosalind.
Roz Brewer.
Brewer.
Oh, what does she do? I don't know her.
She was the CEO of Walgreens and Starbucks at one point.
She was at Sam's first.
Oh yeah, she's been in a lot of places, but now she's the interim president at Spelman. Let me think. Like, I feel like half of those people I just watched on this thing about art collectors. So Aisha Sheldon, who was a stockbroker, Dr. Joy, I forgot her last name, in California. Like, there's these big.
I guess she's a doctor. I saw her too. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think she's still a millionaire though. A lot of people who are doctors are millionaires. Okay, if you just talk about, do they have $1 million?
Yes, net worth.
Yeah.
We still not at 10?
We're still not at 10.
We are over 10. We have 10.
So let me give you some other ones. Y'all did good. I had a list. Pinky Cole.
Oh, Pinky Cole. I forgot about her.
Kathy Hughes.
That's a good one too.
Yeah.
Kathy Hughes. That's
Kathy Hughes. I didn't think about that.
Sheila Johnson, who I love. And Serena Williams, athlete.
Yeah. Oh, we should say Venus and Serena.
Venus and Serena.
There you go. So anyway, y'all did good. Y'all did excellent with the list. Excellent.
But also Maya Angelou, Toni Morrison, like literally we could go down the list of people.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, who's outside of because I feel like that goes into the boy entertainment.
Yeah. Or I mean, writers. I mean, there are a lot of people who, I mean, if you think about the Nobel Prize is $800,000 in and of itself, right? Like a lot of people, or the MacArthur Genius Grant is $600,000 in and of itself, not to mention everything. There's like a lot of people. So I guess it depends on multimillionaires, close to billionaires.
Yeah, because I also think millionaire, 18th century, millionaire,
correct,
21st century are
very different.
Very different things.
Totally different things. And so this is actually, hey, Sister Tani, this is actually a good segue into our conversation today. And I think it's interesting. So, of course, Madam C.J. Walker came up because she has been popularly marketed as the first Black woman self-made millionaire. She actually wasn't a millionaire. She was close, but she actually wasn't. If you look at financial net worth, she wasn't. And so I think this is interesting because it delves into my background in business. So yeah, she wasn't a millionaire. She spent a lot of money. But
where did she land?
Just right underneath that. It was a marketing thing for her to say that she was a millionaire. Because to your point, Estee, at the turn of the century, turn of the 20th century, to say that you're a millionaire, I mean, that's huge. I mean, a Black woman millionaire. So she was just right below that threshold. But she didn't have $1 million.
Meaning like $900,000?
Probably like 8 or 9.
Okay. Because I'm like, what's right under? You know what I mean? You mean you like 700,000 or like 5? Like, okay. Because that was about to disrupt my whole
spirit, right?
I need to have some clarity. But if you got 900,000, I'ma still call you a Black woman.
Then, I mean, like my thing is, what were her property worth? What was her products worth? I don't know if they include all that.
She was neighbors. She was neighbors with John D. Rockefeller. Cause
you know what I'm saying? Like, what was her zip code? Because I feel like she lived in the billionaire zip code.
When you have a privately held company, you never know actually what people are worth. You can estimate it. And so even for my company, which is privately held, then people just estimate my net worth, and they can do that based on where you live and the number of employees that you have. Obviously, they don't have access to your taxes, but there's a lot of information that companies can gather and estimate your net worth. And so that's usually what it is, like looking at your assets. And the funny thing is that for my industry right now in mental health, all these venture capitalists, corporate greedy type people.
Morgan Devine, who owns Blavity.
Oh, yeah. No, I like her a lot. Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the venture capitalists have decided that my industry is worth trying to jump into. And so people reach out to me. So I've started to get these things where people are reaching out to me and saying, hey, are you interested in selling your company? And what they're doing is that they're going in and they're calculating what they think that I might make. And then they reach out because they're like, okay, this might be a good investment. So that's a lot of what you're seeing. If it's and again, a privately held company, not one that issues stocks. That's very different because they have to have disclosures, and so you can actually get what their actual net worth is. But a privately held company is all based on estimates. And so Madam C.J. Walker was actually a master at being able to market herself because she was marketing herself as a self-made millionaire. She wasn't, and people went with that, just based on estimated net worth. But anyway, that being said, hey everyone, it is 2025, and for all of us that are here on this side of the country in Muskogee territory, I was trying to show it to you. It is snowing here, which it hasn't snowed in many, many years, and so that is really exciting. Like right now, to see the white snow for the people that are at the house. Sister over here in California, my sister Thandi, I'm assuming she don't have snow, but they got fires over there. You okay?
I ain't got no snow. We need a little bit of snow. We need some water.
Oh, yeah.
We need some water out this way.
We are praying for y'all.
Yeah.
It's looking.
Please pray. Please pray.
Yeah, that's quite heartbreaking.
Yeah.
If there is a call for healers or something, please let us know, because I would absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen some stuff online where people are doing mutual aid funds and
that's what people need right now, because so many insurance companies started canceling fire policies during fire.
Okay.
You talking about evil.
One subject at a time. I can't. I'm too tired.
Yeah.
One subject at a time.
Evil.
Yeah. Thandi said one subject at a time. So okay.
We sorry.
In that, today our discussion is around Mary Ellen Pleasant, and that's why I wanted us to talk about millionaires. And I think to someone's point, I don't know if it was you, Jamila, you were saying the point about the fact that there's a difference between a millionaire and someone that's a multimillionaire. There's actually a very big difference. Okay, one of y'all said
that. I didn't say that.
There's also a difference between being a millionaire and sitting on your money and reinvesting it in your business, and using that money to fund John Brown's raid to destroy slavery.
And literally civil rights all the way around.
And civil rights.
Right.
She was an activist. She was an activist.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
So Thandi, let's jump in. My first question I want to ask y'all is, how much did y'all know before starting to prepare for this? How much did you know about Mary Ellen Pleasant?
Well,
I had not heard of her.
Just so happens.
I don't think.
Was in California, so I was really interested in how much you had heard of her.
It just so happens that I knew a lot, because in my book, Some of Us Are Brave, Volume 1, I have an interview with Sharon L. Grain, who's a playwright, actress, playwright, who did a one-woman play on Mammy or Mary Pleasant. And when I interviewed her, it was very, very eye-opening. So prior to that interview, I didn't know that much.
When did you interview her?
Hold on, I'm looking for the page. So on page, come on now. On page, no, that's the Julie Dash. Hold on. On page 176 of Some of Us Are Brave, published last year by DeRoger Press.
And can you put
this was an interview that took place in 2010.
And Jamila, Thandi put the link also in the comments so we can get it. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so she wrote a play called House on the Hill, the Mammy Pleasant story. Now, some people called her Nanny Pleasant. Some people called her Mammy Pleasant, and we can guess why, right?
Yeah.
But she passed away on January 10th, 1904. So this interview was conducted January 13th, 2010, just a few days after the anniversary of her passing. And she talked about the fact that Mary Pleasant was very, very light-skinned and had traveled, hold on. Again, this is 1904. So this is past, not only past enslavement, it's past the quote unquote Reconstruction era. And she had been, hold on. Well, when she passed, it was 1904. But she was called the mother of civil rights in the state of California. Mm-hmm. She was responsible for Black people being able to ride a bus in the state of California. She was instrumental in helping John Brown in terms of meeting with him and sending him money. She joined him in Canada, where he went to put together one of his meetings to put together one of his armies. She bought 4 pieces of property so he could gather and have the meetings in Canada. Now it says here, after they finished talking to him, they were trying to explain to him he was planning on taking all on the territory east of the Allegheny Mountains, and thinking that if he had guns, all the slaves would leave the plantation and run and follow him. And Mary Ellen was trying to say, you don't understand. These slaves are used to being held down on plantations. They're not going to do that without leadership. So they found out that the authorities were looking for him. Mary Ellen fled south. Her husband, who was helping, went back west. John Brown decided to go ahead and move on the Harper's Ferry raid. When Mary Ellen Pleasant went to this meeting in Canada, she had come with $1,500 of her own money to give him, $500 collected from the freed slaves in San Francisco. She said, when the axe falls at the root of the tree, I'll send you money and help. But at the time, she just thought it was not the right move to make. Talking about Harper's Ferry. 4 pieces of property and gun running. I'm like, I shame, I'm going to go head on.
What year was that? 1861?
John Brown was 1859. It was 1857, yeah.
1859. But, and I feel like that is what is really interesting. And I think John Brown is great, considered, you know, a catalyst really for the Civil War, for letting white people know that we were serious about getting up out of slavery. But almost universally, all Black people were like, oh, this ain't a good idea. Like, they were like, we're behind you, but you just trying to go ahead and jump in this thing, and you ain't got it all the way worked out. I mean, that's what Frederick Douglass said. That's what Harriet Tubman said. And I feel like, what if he had listened to Mary Ellen Pleasant, Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, when they were like,
Black women, listen to Black people.
Just listen to Black women. Like, why don't you wait? Why don't you wait? Because you're not ready to do this, and Black people are not going to follow you in the way you think they are, because they need a leadership. And you still a white man, and they might be like, what you talk about? And it'll be hard. But anyway, it's history. And I do think, like I said, it did end up scaring, white people, because they're like, if this white man from Kansas is going to set stuff off like this, talk about get guns and shoot their way out of slavery, then I don't know what we do. And so I think they got to understand there would have to be something large in order to keep Black people in subjugation, i.e. Civil War. So,
and I think it's interesting. Well, a couple of things. So I wanted to do a calculation real quick. At $1,500. So she went to what's that state of? Canada. Thank you. With $1,500, the equivalent today of $60,000, a little more than $60,000. So this lady was balling, you know. And I think from the beginning, she got the money from her husband who passed away, but I think
it was abusive, which I was surprised when, that's what I learned from Wikipedia and a little bit from the documentary. But
I think that might have been the second one they're saying. The first one.
No, the first one. Her second one, she was married to for 30 years, Mr. Pleasant. And he was great. He stayed in the work. It was the first one who left her.
This is the first one.
Because they lived in Harper's Ferry, and so he left her a plantation in West Virginia, and I want to say about $45,000.
Oh, that's so interesting, because when I was I read a part of her autobiography, the one that she dictated to the men, and then I read biography, and that's interesting. They didn't mention that he was abusive.
The documentary was saying he was.
Yeah, for FYI, do not watch this documentary. It's not good because I literally had to go back and try to figure out, piece together stories that there's a woman singing songs. Like I was like, well, what's the story? Because I'm really confused.
I really want her to hush.
I was just like,
I think that was the worst one. I would wonder because when I looked at that, so I didn't know anything about Mary Ellen Pleasant. Years ago, I had heard that there was a Black woman in California that owned a lot of property. Bless you, Thandi. And I actually thought she was in Los Angeles. I didn't realize she was in San Francisco. That's how little I knew about her. And so this year, she just has come into my consciousness multiple times, and I've read multiple things about her. So then I thought it was interesting when I started watching that documentary that's on PBS, if people do want to see it, which is terrible.
Don't do it.
Save
yourself. Hopefully there'll be somebody else that is interested in doing a film about her because I think it's worthy.
What is the world coming to when Wikipedia is more accurate than PBS?
Wikipedia, girl. I was like, why are you giving me more information?
But how do we know this?
It's truly the end of days. It is truly the end of days.
Is it? They cited their sources. They cite their sources on Wikipedia. So all I'm saying.
Yeah. But from the historian, Miss Historian over there, how much did you know about her?
I did not know about her before this assignment that you gave us.
At all?
No, not that I can recall. I don't recall knowing anything about her.
I don't
Reading
recall.
maybe something in passing. Like in a list of abolitionists, but yeah, so I didn't know. In the documentary, I didn't see what it was. So the basis of the documentary on the one woman show, I think is what made the documentary difficult to get through. So since it was based on the one woman show and it was centered on
which one woman show?
So the homegirl that's in if you saw the documentary, like the woman who acts out the whole thing.
Yeah,
I mean, it wasn't Sharon Grain, was it? It was another woman.
No.
Nah, see,
no.
It wasn't good at all.
And so.
Yeah, and like I said, it's like you didn't get enough of the story. Like she would start talking about something and then she would sing a song, a Negro spiritual or something, and then you were like, wait a minute, I don't even know, like how she do that, like where did she go, like, so the facts were very hard to pin down because of the narrative structure.
So I
had to put the link in the private chat. It's not letting me put it in comments. So
okay, I'll put it in. I'll put your book in there. I wonder if we could just talk a little bit about her story, because if us with all this education on on this channel right here, and if we don't know, and if the two women from California don't really know that much about her and had not heard of her growing up, then I think it's safe to assume that other people don't know about her. So I wonder if each of you can just give 20 seconds. I'm gonna cut you off if it's more than 20 seconds. 20 seconds of something that you learned about Mary Ellen Pleasant. Who was she? Tanya, go first.
Okay. So according to Sharon L. Grain, she was enthusiastic about the idea of freeing the slaves, just not necessarily convinced that John Brown's plan was right at the moment. So what she did in the South is she went throughout the South, visiting a couple of plantations, posing as a jockey. And when the slaves would gather around and see this phenomenon, a black jockey, because as Sharon Grain said, the woman was light-skinned, but we know our people. Right. And the enslaved would come out to see what this phenomenon was. She would tell them, freedom coming, y'all. It's going to be an uprising.
Oh, that's great. See, that should have been in the One Woman show we saw. That wasn't in there.
That's hilarious.
That is no parts of the story.
Okay.
I need to see Sharon Grain's One Woman show. I don't know if she's going to reprise this or whatever, but it would be great.
Estee, your 20 seconds. What did you learn about her? What do you know about her now?
So what I read said that, and I think this is in Who's Who Among African Americans. I think is where I saw this. But anyway, she said that she identified as a capitalist by profession. So she basically saw herself as a social agency, like as a person whose role was to leverage her network, her way of, which is how she even used the food and these dinners, to be able to connect power and to be able to build power so that she could shift power, and that came with monetary resources. And I personally love that, because that's actually how I think about capitalism. Not as a god, but as a tool because of the system we're in. So that was really poignant to me. And that she was successful, not like that she saw herself that way, but that she moved that way, that was her ethic, and she was successful at doing it.
Okay. That's perfect. Okay. Dr. Claiborne, 20 seconds.
So I think that I like that she is in a tradition of people who fought for freedom. I mean, she starts by doing what she knows, which is sewing and cooking. And I love the part of her story where she goes down to New Orleans and learns from Marie Laveau about multiple things, whether or not she learned spells and some such, they don't say. But I do think that she took that indigenous knowledge, and then so learning that she was a cook and did, put together all these food traditions from the South, the Northeast, when she went to California to build up this great social network, right? People who would come to her hotels and whatever, and they just want to dine with her. I just feel like that is what Black women do, right? Use those things.
Okay. Our historian.
So I thought it was interesting from the perspective of Black History bucket list. I want to travel. I like traveling, and I want to go to all parts of the United States. But this lady, who was probably born into slavery, went to touch every region of the United States. So she was probably born into slavery in the South, maybe Georgia. But she at some point went into indentured servitude in Nantucket, Massachusetts. But then eventually she started to help with the Underground Railroad in the Midwest, and then eventually went out to the far west during the Gold Rush era, when California was new, right? A newly petitioning state, and settled there in, like you said, the San Francisco area, and even opened businesses in Canada and went to Canada to help with John Brown's cause. So she was all over the continent in a lot of ways, and I admire her mobility in that way.
So the thing that stands out to Mary Ellen, to me about Mary Ellen Pleasant is, and I thought about this as I was younger, and I never had like a role model that I could identify in history, is someone that was business minded, absolutely. And so when I was an undergrad, lots of my peers were either getting degrees in psychology or history or something. And they would talk about me because I was in business school. And I was like, that's all right. I'm gonna fund the revolution. You ain't got no money. And I would tease them a lot. And that got dismissed about me and my personality. I was literally the only person that I knew that had any kind of political consciousness that was interested in business. And I knew that we needed money to do the things that we said that we were going to do. And so to watch Mary Ellen Pleasant or read about her and then realized that this is someone that had that same type of mindset to go to California when there was no way that you could get across no easy way to get across the United States. So she goes down around the bottom of South America and comes back up. So there's no Panama Canal, no nothing like that. And she does that multiple times to get to California. I think is touching. The fact that she was born in California is touching to me. And then at the end of her life, where she calls this man in, this reporter, Sam, somebody, I forget his last name, Sam Davis, calls him, and she decides that she wants to dictate her autobiography. And she's basically like, just letting y'all know, I'm the one that gave John Brown the money. Yep, I did it, and I would do it again. I really have a lot of respect for the fact that she was the woman that she was. And it brings me to the question for all of you, why y'all think we don't know about her? Particularly because this is a woman in the 1850s, when you look at her estimated net worth, because they don't know for sure, but based on the properties that she owned, all the things that she was doing, they estimate her net worth would have been the equivalent to from 90 to between 90 and 150 $1 million.
Now you're talking about present day.
Present day, it would be
because Sharon Green said it was 30 million.
So 30 million present day, or
30 million at the time. I was like, did you say $30? She said no, 30 million.
30.
Who said that?
It was me. That was the playwright who did the one woman play on it. She had there's a book which I have forgotten the name of, but it might be her autobiography. It's a book on that she based it on. She found out about Mary Ellen Pleasant, read this book. She said, I need to do a play about this woman.
So that would be, and so this is an interesting thing. Remember I told you, like, net worth is all like your estimates of what you think. So you in people's business and thinking, based on what they have. So the calculations that I was doing based on what people were saying was estimating between 90 and 150 million. What Thandi is saying, that's over $1 billion. That this woman,
I haven't checked. I'm just telling you what she told me.
What we know is she wasn't playing no games. She had more money than Madam C.J. Walker.
We're not saying she a gold digger. She wasn't
messing with no bro.
She wasn't messing with no bro.
Okay.
So I feel like, well, maybe this is and I don't want to be like a downer. But she lost her money, right? And I feel like your girl Zora Hurston, partly the reason why she kind of went into obscurity is because at the end of her life, she, was insolvent, which they said she was, which I was surprised, because I'm like, girl, how you should know better than anybody else. And they were talking about at the point where she had this book with all these secrets that she might have used to blackmail people. I don't know if that's true. That's what Wikipedia said. But what I was saying is that you should know better enough than to trust people. So at the end of her life, when she's living in this 20-room mansion with the Bell family widow and some of their family, the white man that she used as a front for her businesses and whatever, he let that woman put her out her house and take that property, which she was never able to get back. Take all of her diamonds, take all of the stuff that she had. And she died trying to fight a lawsuit to even just get her diamond collection back, to get whatever. And I'm always like, see, this is what history does to us, right? Like, and this is what, before there's a Black woman who went and resurrected Zora Neale Hurston's life. Like, it's easy to say she was this poor person, died in a pauper's grave, no headstone. So I don't know. So this was my question. Like, is there a place where she's buried? They no longer have the house. Well, she didn't own it at the end of her life, but is there a historical marker on the mansion? Okay.
Yeah.
What happened to her daughter? Like, what kind of family did she have?
They think she died when she was young.
Oh, okay.
They can't find any record. She married because Millionaire gave her a really big wedding.
Yeah.
that she might have died of, you know, the 50 million kind of plagues that were going on at the time, because they don't find anything else about her.
But I feel like this is our problem. Like, did she get suppressed in history because her story it doesn't end on a high note. It don't end when you get the millions, right? Like, and I feel like that too often we only want to celebrate people who end on the kind of high with a certain level of recognition. And until somebody like you was like, oh, we need to know about her, or somebody writes a play like, we need to know about her, and sort of rescues people out of the history of something that might not have ended on a high note, right?
So, and I think that there are lessons here. So I think that there are critical lessons here that we need to think about and begin to talk about. And Estee, I want you to jump in, because I feel like you will have some insight in here. Because one, I think we need to start with, we need to recognize that this lady wasn't, she didn't just have $1 million. She didn't have $2 million.
Right.
This woman had tens of millions of dollars in the 1850s and 60s. She had tens of millions of dollars. We need to be clear about that first.
Right.
And we need to be clear that this was a root worker. So she had some kind of connection to Vodun. That's number two. I think the other thing is, we need to be clear, to your point, Dr. Claiborne, is this thinking. So she, in order for her to make that kind of money, she had to be able to trust people that did not look like her. And so initially she was doing that, and she's making a lot of money. But to your point, at the end of her life, because she continues to trust folks that don't look like her, they then end up stealing all the stuff. So it's not a Dornell Hurston situation where she's relying on other people. This is a systematic effort to steal her money. And to steal her property, which is very different. And I think this is a lesson in there,
which is
because
very,
over and over
very
again.
Status quo.
Yeah. But Estee and Thandi, I'm interested in your thoughts about this. Like, what lessons?
Real quick, she's buried in Napa, California.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was looking at,
I said road trip.
I was looking that up while you were talking. You wanted my thoughts on what?
Well, Estee first, and then I got a different question for you, Thandi.
Okay.
Even that, like, the power that your ancestral remains are in Napa. Okay. Like, they might have stole your money, but they had to keep you with money. Like, I mean, you know, it's so many layers there. I was kind of looking some stuff up too, because my understanding was that it was 30 million. That was what I had read, and y'all were throwing out some way different numbers. So I was kind of trying to see what y'all had seen.
No, 30 million then. So if it's 30 million then, it would be over $1 billion today.
Oh, yes. Okay, yes. Okay. I thought you all were saying that it was indeed a 90 to 150 million. And I was like, that is not what I read.
No, equivalent to the numbers that I read would have made it the estimate to 90 to 100 million today. So Thandi's giving us numbers that are beyond that are closer to $1 billion.
Yes. No, what I read is that it would have been like equivalent to 2024, it would be like $900 million. Which is what Thandi was saying. Yeah. But I think what was really standing out to me was how we really see her agency. And that it wasn't just the way that she wanted to move in the world and the way that she chose to move in the world, but her agency in doing that. Because I really think that's the thing that we all have. Like, I feel like that's the thing we can always find and identify. And I really feel like this is a spiritual thing too. Now I know this is the priest in me, but so forgive me for like going off on a tangent from the historical context. But I really think sometimes we forget that, like, we need that ashe as a part of the community. Like, somebody got to have the money, and somebody got to have the ashe for money. Like, somebody got to have the sweetness to be able to go in the bank, you know what I'm saying, and commiserate with the enemy and come out with the resource that we need. Like somebody got to be Ogun and have a machete, but somebody else has
to be Oshun.
You know,
look,
right? You know what I'm saying?
Baba Tasu. I shade to Baba Tasu out there in Atlanta, Georgia. He told me something one time I will never forget. He said, when you go to war, you invoke Ogun. But when you come home, you invoke Oshun. I said, Ashe, Baba, Ashe. And then when you think about what is needed in war, but what is needed when you come back home, you need some peace. You need some serenity. You need some cleansing, cool water. Ashe, Baba, Ashe.
Yeah, that's very clear to me. And I think if we remember that, you know, on the same vein, if we remember that all of it comes out of the ocean, all of it belongs to Olokun, right? Ajay is Olokun's daughter. You know what I'm saying? So like it's ours for the asking. It's ours from the beginning, right? So it's really just reallocation anyway. You know what I'm saying? And if we are willing to use our agency in ways that because I think sometimes for those of us that are conscious, capitalism and the evilness of the system, it can blur our ability to see it as a strategy, and that it is still the system in which we exist. I'm not saying that it's not problematic. And you know what I'm saying? Like, if we live in the house, can we always be safe and tear the walls down at the same time? Like, there has to be strategy about how we create something else and remain safe where we are. And we need all of that. And so I think her agency and her ability to have like lived in these different places and to have kept that consistent type of agency where we see her moving in these ways in and out of this nation and in different regions of this nation. I just really think that agency is so pervasive in her story. And it really is an opportunity for all of us to reach and to see how our own agency and our own Ashe is the thing that we bring, and how can we always be moving in that, no matter what our context is, in a way that allows our piece of the puzzle to function for the community.
A question for you, Thandi. Well, and I actually want to make a comment on what you said, Estee. I knew someone that said a quote, and this always has stuck with me, that African-centered people won't let nothing stand in their way of being broke. Over the years, I've noticed that can be a poverty mindset and almost like this sense of like a badge of honor to focus on impoverishment, to the point where the mayor of our city, when he was running, I went on online in order to give a donation, and I was reading his background story, and you can tell he's one of these rah-rah kind of in the early stages of development of kind of African-centered identity. And it was talking about, he's originally from the area, grew up in the family home. That family home passed to him when the, elders in the family died, and he lost the property. And I was like, what? He's a lawyer and lost the property. And I didn't see that as a badge of honor.
It was probably paid for. How you lose the property?
It was paid for because
how you lose it?
Well, the story online, and I haven't read it in a couple of years, so forgive me, I don't have the exact details, but I remember he went to law school, became a city council person. In his mind, city council, you only get paid like a very little bit of money because it's a part-time job. And so he felt like he needed to be a full-time city council person. So because he was doing that full-time, he couldn't maintain the property. And I was like, that's not African-centered thought or theory, because if you are saying that you are down for the people, the first thing that you need to take care of is your ancestral lineage, and you keep this property. So I thought that was
a whole nother wavelength from him. Come on now.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so that just kind of goes to the Estee's comment. But the question I have for you, Thandi, is around the journalists at the time. We know obviously a lot of the covering of Mary Ellen Pleasant was pretty racist, to the point where she was like, these people call me mammy, I'm not nobody's mammy. How do we look at historic journalism that we know is racist to be able to pull out the real facts? How do we decipher what is real versus what is just racist hyperbole? I don't know if
I'm sure my sister, Dr. Kenja McCray, would agree. You have to look at multiple sources. Mm-hmm. So you're looking at newspaper. You go into newspaper coverage knowing that they're gonna call people names and think it's okay. Like with Huckleberry Finn, just casually throwing particular words around because that was the time period we were in. So, I remember when I was embarking on quote unquote consciousness, I would look for Black folks in certain books, and there was nothing in there in the index under Black. I said, okay, let me look under Negro, let me look under colored, and then you find your people. So you go into, when you're able to get a hold of newspaper coverage from the day, you're going to have to compare the reportage, compare the sources, and compile them. What does this one say? What does that one say? And then you go look for a book. A lot of times the books are based on have sources that are newspapers. Sometimes they're sources from a person who actually lived, maybe a person's memoir, an interview of someone elsewhere. So it's a bit of research. It's a bit of detective work. Okay. If you're willing to do that.
I feel like we have a whole conversation about news media, and you can get us hip us on that. Dr. McCray, how do we find it? What is our role? So Mary Ellen Pleasant is someone that's new to us. For whatever reason, her spirit was decided, hey, Ìfétáyò, I need you to know who I am. And I need you to make sure these other women know who I am. So where do we go from here? From a historic perspective, how do we elevate her name, elevate her as an ancestor?
I think this is one good way. I actually looked to see if she was included in a Black women's history of the United States. And I looked in the index and I didn't see, because I didn't remember reading about her in that book. And she isn't in a Black women's history of the United States, which made me wonder.
That's one book, though.
That's just one book. Yep. Now that she is, you did lead us to your book, right? Thandi, and so that is a good starting point, right? So I think we should look more, maybe revisit this topic and look at where she is written about, including. So you led us to the playwright that you interviewed, but does your book mention Mary Ellen Pleasant, or just the playwright?
Well, it's an interview with the playwright talking about the play that she did.
Okay, all right. So that's a good starting part.
I put in the chat. There were actually a few 1 to 2, 3 minute clips of her play on YouTube. I put the links in the private chat, so if you could put those in the comments also.
Yeah, I'll put them in the comments. There.
Okay.
So that's a good starting point. So to answer your question directly, Dr. Ìfétáyò, what we could do if it's a project, right, that you want to expound on, what we could do is look at what Sister Thandi has given us there, and then look at the holes that are there, like what is said and what isn't said. And so if I was to say, involve my students, right? Or if anybody was to involve students, anybody who's looking was to involve their students, they could give them the assignment of looking at what Thandi has given them and doing a project on what is said and then what is left out, and then researching how they could possibly use what is out there to fill the holes in terms of what is left out. And so part of why we don't know as much about Mary Ellen Pleasant as we should may be that she didn't leave the record, right? So one of the things that I did pick up from doing, just some light research on her for this show is that so much it just is not known about her, because maybe a large part of what she did was work done in the shadows, because she was, doing the work of the Underground Railroad, right? And so she had to be discreet and secretive. And so there may be things we may never know about her. So that could be why we don't know, and it could be why creatives did a lot of the work of bringing her to our attention. Yeah. So we don't know. We have to get out there and do the legwork and find out what's there. In which case, if it is, then it's people like Corrie, right, who are going to be really, really important in helping her name live on.
I think that's one of the.
I'm gonna give you something to answer as you get ready to stay with your thing.
Okay, come back to me too.
Okay, so part of the accusation against her, and this is one of the theories of why people don't know about her, is we know that she set up boarding houses for the men that were in California for the gold rush, because it was like 97% men that were there. She set up boarding houses, she cooked for them, she cleaned for them. And so if you got men cooking and cleaning and they got a place to live, they also gonna need some ass. And so people say
Ìfétáyò.
Am I lying? Sex
work. Yes, sex works. Maybe the language was off-putting. So she may.
You didn't see me even blink, right? I was
like she may have provided sex work. So that. So yes. So she may have.
I mean, the only thing I would add is women like ass sex too. Work. Yeah, like it ain't just men. Like,
oh my God,
people like people.
I wonder, does that color your thoughts about her? Like, let's say if it is, we don't know that that's true. That might have been
facilitated. Yeah.
You mean how I feel about her running hoes? No, I'm just playing.
I think it's definitely true, right? Like, why wouldn't it be true? But and then the question is, if it's true, that doesn't mean that she's not worthy of, right? Like she didn't do amazing things. If it's true,
she made $30 million.
Correct. If it's true, what did she? If it's true, she tried to give some money to John.
Running them hoes up to $30 million.
But like I said, I don't think she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna pimp this hoe out." Like, I don't feel like she was like that.
Right.
But I think she also, because they, according to Wikipedia too, she had quote unquote proteges that she got. Because there was no safety for women except for through marriage. So it sounded like she was, I'm not saying she was doing brides for hire, but it was kind of like, oh, let me hook these women up with these rich men because we gonna make sure you taken care of. And even one of the women who the man stopped taking care of, they ended up going to the court. But anyway, I feel like all that can be true and is, but I also understand that, like anybody else, who did work, like Kenja was saying, that doesn't mean that, oh, well, I'm in it just to be running women, or I'm doing this just for the money. That she was very clear that all of that goes back to freedom work. Like at the base, she had, and I feel like, part of her narrative is what you can read between the lines. I mean, everything about her, after she goes to Massachusetts, she's surrounded by abolitionists. Mm-hmm. She marries abolitionists. Mm-hmm. Her second husband, who she's married to for 30 years. Now, on the surface, it seems like they're still in service. Like she's still a domestic working for white people all the
Yes.
time, while her husband is still like a merchant marine kind of traveling around, but he's really doing the work of the Underground Railroad, right? For 30 years. And he don't sit there and try to stop her from doing the work she gonna do. He don't say, well, here's my money, like, which the United States said that it was the man's money because women couldn't really own property in that way. That's what the law said, right? So we know he doesn't do any of that, that they remain in a marriage until he dies. He remains doing that work. She remains doing that work. She renames herself. She did one of my grandmother's names. When she takes somebody's name, she changes it. His last name is Pleasance with the S. She was like, no, it's Pleasant. We gonna take the S off. That's what it's gonna be. We're gonna be called we're gonna be the
that's how you know she was black, because we do that.
That's why you know she was black. She was like, I don't even like your name. I know I married you, but I'm gonna change your name. How about that? So
that was good about the documentary though. The PBS documentary. They explained that it was Pleasance. It was Pleasance.
Yeah.
And she said it's pleasant. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just
and
pleasant,
then they
contextualize.
Yes, and they contextualize the like the traveling thing from Nantucket.
Right.
The men would be seafaring and the women would have a whole life and an entrepreneurial life in place.
And he remained seafaring.
Yeah.
And he was just like, all right, I'm about to be out on this road. You handle it. You get this money. I'm gonna be out here trying to lead expeditions. But anyway, I think that what's gonna happen is like somewhere in between the line, like we may never know. And just like, Harriet Tubman's raid, she couldn't read or write. She never wrote anything down about it. Do we know she did it? Yes, right? Like, do you know that was like the largest movement of Africans at one time? Yes. Will we know about Mary Pleasant that if it's not written down? No. But what I think will happen is that the life that comes out of this, the more that people kind of sort of try to fill in the lines, create screenplays, create stories, the same way we were on here just talking about Lovecraft Country, which was, a reimagination of a lot of historical events. There's nothing to say that even something that's Afrofuturist can't include this character that is built off the life that she had, that gave us possibilities, that can be an imaginative character, but still lead people back to her life. And that's what I hope, people do, like that. They, like, you were inspired, they will get inspired to tell her story too. So
I love it.
I want to jump in just a second before we move to say this, right? When we think about all of these histories of harm, Maafa previous, Maafa forward, sex work is always there, right? Sex work is always an integral part of why human beings are trafficked, of how exploitation is occurring, of how harm and abuse is being reinforced and maintained. Sex work is always there. And so the fact that it's even mentioned, I think, or focused on in certain ways is just a tool of racism and sexism, because white men are financing sex work, often implemented by people of color and upheld by people of color, and not funded or financing ultimately people of color, right? They're not benefiting from it. But sex work is always there, and sex work is there not just as a tool of exploitation, but as a tool of pleasure. Sex work is always there. Sex work is there now. Sex work has always been there. Sex work is there in ancient times. Sex work has always been there. It is a reality of the human experience, unfortunately. And I don't mean unfortunately for the sex work, but I mean unfortunately for the abuse and the ways that it's used for exploitation. So I also did not read it as she was using it for exploitation, but so much she was using it as a way to leverage power, and she was using it as a way to get women, particularly women of color, access to powerful men, almost as kind of like some reverse manipulation is kind of how I saw it, of like, you want access to these women anyway, So how do I create space for you to have access to what you want, and then to be able to get these women access to power and stability in ways that can shift their lives in the ways that it has shifted her own. So I think to even talk about it that way, I think it's important to name that it's absolutely revolutionary for a Black woman to have a part of her income be coming from sex work in a place where women were actually safe and protected. So I just want to name that.
I wanted to say, going back to Piggy or Veggie backing off of this and going back to something that was talked about earlier, it's important to understand context, not just for understanding context, but she was born in 1812. Some people say she was born free. Some people say she was born of enslaved parents or enslaved herself. Either way, she was there when slavery was on and popping. She saw it up close and personal, so she knew about it. She wanted to be known as an abolitionist. That's what she was. She directed when she died, I want my headstone to say, I was a friend of John Brown. She was clear. And she lived in a time when it was, if you're not clear, it's because you don't want to be clear.
Right.
If you're not clear what's happening, it's because you don't want to be clear. She lived in a time where there were not as many distractions as we have today. So understanding context, when we talk about, now I'm morphing into another subject, what people do, quote unquote, with their money. It's hard to get distracted. I mean, it's very easy to get distracted today. So in terms of what people are putting their money towards, you have some people, like when Prince passed away, people talked about how he had given money to various causes and never wanted his name to be known. He had a particular consciousness that we didn't even know about. We may have surmised it, but we didn't necessarily know about. It's no telling who's out there right now today giving money, but don't want it to be known because they're not doing it for that purpose. The last thing I want to say real quick, because I can go there, I can get confused. But in terms of this sex work and exploitation, she was using a tool that was available. She was using a tool that was readily available. You have Biddy Mason out here in California, and you have, what's my sister's name? Carrie, I don't forgot her name. My Face is Black is True. The washerwoman with the Ex-Slave Reparation Society. These were washerwomen. That was a tool that was available to sisters to enable them to get an economic footing, and sometimes leading to wealth on their part. Carrie, it was Carrie somebody. My Face is Black is True. Mary Frances Berry book on the sister who put on reparations.
It's not Callie House, right?
Callie. I knew it was a something in there. Callie House, thank you. So these are the avenues that people have available to them. And what do they do with it?
Okay, so
context, history of the times.
So yes,
I found your last comment.
No, it can't be.
Because you had something to say, Ìfétáyò. What was that?
Go ahead. Okay. Who are you talking to?
You.
Wait, you talking to Estee? Okay. No. All right. So this is way too much information. I teach women's history from this book through women's eyes. And yes, there is a reference to Mary Ellen Pleasant in this women's history textbook. I don't recall it because there are a lot of references to people in here. It is in the part about women in the West. It's under the gold rush. And it says most of the gold seekers were men. For every 100 men who came to gold country, there were only 3 women. Some of these women came with their husbands, either to share in the adventure or to fulfill a sense of conjugal duty. But some women longed to go west to pursue their own adventurous dreams. In a letter to her mother, soon after news broke of the discovery of gold, Susan B. Anthony, later one of the founders of the women's rights movement, wrote, "I wish I had about $100,000 of that precious dust. I would no longer be a school marm." Anthony did not go, but there were women who did join the rush, some to work close to the mines and others to set up businesses in San Francisco or Sacramento to make their fortunes at a distance. One of the few African American women in Gold Rush, San Francisco, was Mary Ellen Pleasant, who ran a boarding house and a restaurant from 1849 through 1855. Quote, "A smart woman can do very well in this country," end quote, one woman wrote to a friend back east. Quote, "It is the only country that I was ever in where a woman received anything like just compensation for work," end quote. And that's where it begins and ends. And
She's
then
talking
it
about
goes.
Cali was the only country?
No, it's just saying a smart woman can do very well, and there's this random woman who says it's the only a country that I was ever in where a woman received anything like just compensation for work, and it's just a mention of Mary Ellen Pleasant, who ran a boarding house for 6 years out and a restaurant, and it says despite the economic unpredictability of the gold rush, women continued to maintain class differences among themselves. Unmarried men willing to pay well for services that women provided. And then, of all women in Gold Rush, California, prostitutes must have drawn the most attention from historians. And then that's because it's, salacious and romantic and
and Puritan and Victorian and paternalistic and patriarchal.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's not much there. I think there's not a lot of primary source material on Mary Ellen Pleasant. Yeah. And so the work of Dr. Claiborne and her students and charges is going to be very important.
We're going to have to pray on these men. They need to take women's history, though, first. So we're going to have to pray on it. I'll have to send them all to you because, I teach at Morehouse. Send all the men over there, and then we'll work on it.
Okay.
So one thing that people do say is that there are a lot of primary resources on her. There's actually even she kept diaries. They think that the diaries are in possession of some white folks. So she's got a lot, and she was always in the media. They're going to be, and I'm sure that they, because she was in court a lot, so they're going to be a lot of court documents about her. So there's a ton of primary resources. People have not taken on her story partly because of the conversation around her possibly being a madam, but I think that it's worth looking at. Yep, Tani.
I want to say that interview with Sharon Grain. I was I was doing the radio show at KPFK. Some of Us Are Brave, a Black women's radio show. So I was looking for things to, content for the show. Found out about this play by this sister named Sharon Grain on this Black woman. And that's how I invited her onto the show. So look around your community to see who's doing what on Black women or aspects of Black history that you're not familiar with. And even though we're talking about Sharon L. Grain, I want to throw this in also, another shameless plug, because it's in volume 2. It's a brother by the name of Clayton LeBeouf. He's an actor. If you watch The Wire or Homicide: Life on the Street, then you know his face when you see him. I don't remember if this was it may have been via Facebook back in the day, but he's an actor. Actors do plays, actors do Shakespeare, etc. Actors are dedicated to their craft. He was reading a book called Shakespeare in Sable and came across a sister by the name of Henrietta Vinton Davis, who worked with Marcus Garvey. And he was so intrigued by her life, he did, I won't call it, of course, it wasn't a one-woman play, but it was something around her. And he's been doing work in Baltimore to get a headstone for her grave. Had him on the show. So your social media, the rise of TikTok, all of these different sites that are putting out historical information, so it's worth investigating to see, is it correct, or getting, that's how you find out about stuff, through your social media, through your community. You're bound to come across something you did not know about.
Yeah.
Natanya Duncan does work on Henrietta Vinton Davis. Her official book release was yesterday.
Wow.
It's
Henrietta Vinton Davis?
An Efficient Womanhood. Yeah, she does Garveyite women. So did Keisha Blaine, but I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. I know Natanya Duncan was living with these women for a super long time too.
And also Darlene Clark Hine is also a Black women's historian.
Yes, she is.
Before I lost my way up, I was a history major.
As we get ready to wrap up, I think that the whole thing that should be pointed out is that Mary Ellen Pleasant came into my spirit at this time, at this space where we're at as African Americans in this world. And I think it's for a particular reason. One, if we just think about it quickly from a psychological perspective, this was a woman that was operating at the time during enslavement. She's operating at this time. And despite what people tell her that she should be as a woman, and particularly as a Black woman, she was able to have a significant amount of success. But to Dr. Claiborne's point, her downfall was trusting the wrong people. And if we don't learn anything else as people of African descent in this country, we need to learn who to trust and stop trusting the wrong people. That being said, I want to thank my colleagues, friends, sister friends, and guests that come on every month on the first Friday of each month and have this conversation with me. The first person that is right next to me is Reverend Estee Nena Dillard, who is a queer sexologist. She is an Olokun, an Ifa, and a Gungun priest. She is a reverend, and she is just an all-around good sister and just looking fabulous with that. I don't know what the color is called. Is it pink fuchsia combination of beautifulness with the hair and everything? So it's like she got the whole Black woman vibe. Then right next to her on that left coast is our sister Thandisizwe Chimurenga. She is a writer. She is a social commentator. She is a journalist, and she got lots of books. Hold them books up, Thandi.
Well, here's two of them right here. Two of the five.
Some of us are brave. She got the volume 1 and 2. So we've got those in the chat. Make sure that you check those books out. Right underneath her is, right underneath me is Dr. Corrie Claiborne. She's an associate professor of African-American literature at Morehouse College. She's on sabbatical this year because she's coming out with an amazing book. So we can't wait to read that.
Well, me too. I can't wait to read it.
And then right next to her is my sister friend, Dr. Kenja and Jamile McCray. We've been doing this thing for 26 years together now. Fussing, fighting, being friends, and doing all the stuff in between. What I didn't say, and I got to give her a big up, and so all of y'all have to help me, is Dr. McCray is having her book come out on a major publisher. So NYU Press is publishing her book, is Essential Soldiers. What's the subtitle of the book?
We fought over this a lot. I think it's Black women. I don't know. Women activists.
You don't know the name of your own book?
No, because we fought over the subtitle and it wasn't actually mine. Women activists and Black women's leadership and Black power, women's leadership activism.
Okay,
I'll put the link. I never can remember.
Black women leadership and Black power. That so
women activists and Black power and Black power women. Women activists and Black power movement leadership.
So that's coming out on NYU Press. So make sure y'all look for that. So of course we're going to have a whole talk on that. And every single month, again, first Fridays of the month, we can sit here and we have conversations and we bring to you new stuff like you never even heard of. Mary Ellen Pleasant. We also talk about kind of what the news is of the day. So do me a favor, hang out with us on the first Fridays. If you are seeing this recording afterwards, and lots of people do, so thank you for that. Do me a favor, comment, like, share, all of that stuff helps us in the process of being able to get this information out there. So we will see y'all next month. So take care. And y'all do me a favor, stay on, because I want to say one thing to y'all. Okay.
Peace.
Take care.